This anime tells the story of a man named Sakamoto Taro, a former hitman feared by everyone. With his incredible skills, he was able to massacre groups of enemies single-handedly without anyone's help. However, one day he fell in love with a woman. In order to live a peaceful life with her, Sakamoto decided to leave his violent profession behind. He started living a normal life, got married, and even had a child. After spending years enjoying a peaceful existence, Sakamoto became the manager of a store and gained a lot of weight. One day, a man named Shin observed Sakamoto at his store. Shin had been searching for him everywhere and had finally found him. Meanwhile, inside the store, a young boy was playing with the glass door, scribbling on it with ink, and then aiming a toy bow at it. Sakamoto and his wife didn't mind the child's antics, but when the boy accidentally spilled ink on a customer's pants, the man became furious and attempted to hit him. Even though the child was being mischievous, Sakamoto couldn't bear to let it happen. Before the man's punch could land, Sakamoto swiftly grabbed his hand and stabbed him. Not to kill him, but just to calm him down. After the incident, Shin finally revealed himself to Sakamoto, but Sakamoto didn't recognize him. Shin reminded him that he was once his subordinate. Once Sakamoto remembered, Shin tried to persuade him to return to being a hitman. However, Sakamoto refused, firmly stating that he would never return to that world. Shin was deeply frustrated. To him, Sakamoto was once a terrifying force among criminals, but now he looked like just an ordinary fat man. To calm himself, Shin tried to light a cigarette, but Sakamoto swiftly cut it in half, reminding him that they were in a no-smoking area. Seeing Sakamoto's agility still intact despite his changed appearance, Shin realized that if Sakamoto wanted to, he could kill him at any moment. A while later, a local resident asked Sakamoto to cut some tree branches, and after that, he also helped soothe the crying child in the park. Sakamoto did all of this sincerely, but to Shin, it seemed like he was trying to hide his true identity and blend in with the town's residents. That day, Shin decided to leave. Even though Sakamoto had changed a lot, he still idolized him and wished to work with him again. Unfortunately, because Sakamoto had abandoned their organization on his own and broken their leader's rules, the gang had issued an order: Sakamoto must not be allowed to live. On his way home, Shin seriously thought about this problem. Even though he still idolized Sakamoto, he ultimately decided to eliminate him. The next day, Shin returned to the store. Sakamoto pretended to welcome him, offering a farewell greeting before Shin pulled the trigger. However, Sakamoto had a unique way of dodging bullets. He used candy to deflect their trajectory, preventing them from hitting him. Additionally, he threw ice cream at Shin to distract him before quickly hiding among the store shelves. As Shin struggled to locate his position, Sakamoto launched a counterattack, delivering a powerful kick that sent Shin flying and knocking him unconscious.
Where is he? Damn, I've got to reposition.
A few moments later, Shin woke up at Sakamoto's house. He was brought into the living room and invited to have dinner with Sakamoto's family. At first, Shin was wary, fearing the food had been poisoned. However, after taking a bite, he was unexpectedly moved. It tasted too good. That moment made Shin realize something. Sakamoto only wanted to protect this peaceful life. The next day, Shin returned to his gang, filled with determination. He pleaded with them to spare Sakamoto's life, as he had already found a new place to belong. The gang leader agreed, but on one condition: Shin had to die in Sakamoto's place. As a psychic who could read minds, Shin immediately realized that the gang leader was lying. Because of this, he decided to rebel. Unbeknownst to Shin, Sakamoto had planted a listening device, allowing him to monitor Shin's movements from afar. Upon understanding the situation, Sakamoto decided to rescue him. He opened a secret warehouse in his store, where he kept various weapons. However, out of all his weaponry, Sakamoto chose to use a stun gun. Meanwhile, Shin fought alone, using his mind-reading ability to predict his enemies' movements and launch sneak attacks. But the sheer number of enemies overwhelmed him. On top of that, his bullets were running low. When he attempted to force his way through, one of the enemies managed to shoot him in the leg, making it impossible for him to escape. He was soon surrounded. A few moments later, Sakamoto arrived to save him. Using the stun gun, he took down his enemies one by one. He also used chopsticks to catch incoming bullets. As the enemies attempted to shoot him simultaneously, Sakamoto swiftly dodged and sliced their guns apart with a knife.
once.
Amazing. There he is. Taro Sakamoto.
Once all the enemies were defeated, Sakamoto made a decision. He would recruit Shin to work at his store. While working enthusiastically, Shin talked about Sakamoto's fight yesterday. In his opinion, even though Sakamoto had retired, he was still the strongest. He was very impressed that Sakamoto could defeat his opponent in a single strike. Hearing the story, Sakamoto's wife immediately asked if they intended to return to being assassins. She even threatened to divorce him if Sakamoto dared to break the family rules. Fearing losing his wife, Sakamoto firmly stated that he would not return to his old life. After speaking with his wife, he immediately forbade Shin from talking about unnecessary things. That afternoon, Sakamoto and Shin visited a Chinese settlement. Even though it was quite far, Sakamoto deliberately went there to buy a limited edition batch of steamed buns. He also wanted to bring some home for his wife and child. Seeing this, Shin realized how much Sakamoto loved his family. As they were about to return to the shop, a girl suddenly jumped from an upper floor and landed on Sakamoto, causing the steamed buns he had just bought to be completely destroyed. The girl's name was Lu Xiaotang, and she was being chased by a group of people after her family's inheritance. While Lu was busy fighting off her pursuers, Sakamoto remained still, more concerned about his ruined food. However, when Lu started getting overwhelmed, he finally stepped in to help her.
Whoa.
Come here! We can't kill her, but we can hurt her legs so she can't run anymore.
But as more enemies arrived, Sakamoto decided to take her and escape. After failing to capture Lu, the people after her hired assassins named Sunhee and Bacho. They were ordered to seize the key Lu was carrying. Their client believed that with the key, they could take control of the black market. While on the run, Lu explained that she was the daughter of a famous mafia family. She was being hunted because she carried the key to a secret family vault. Shin suggested that Lu throw the key away, but she refused, saying her parents had sacrificed their lives to protect it. She couldn't face them in the afterlife if she failed to keep it safe. Since he felt it wasn't his business, Sakamoto decided to part ways with Lu. However, before she left, he suddenly asked if she knew how to make steamed buns. Lu replied that her father had taught her, so she was quite skilled. Hearing this, Sakamoto immediately decided to help her, but on one condition. Lu had to make steamed buns for him once the problem was resolved. Soon after, Sunhee and Bacho appeared before them. Bacho swiftly kicked Sakamoto, sending him flying into a nearby building. Lu explained that these two were not just assassins but also serial killers who often murdered for fun. While Sunhee and Bacho were talking, Shin launched a surprise attack, but Sunhee easily blocked it. He assumed Shin was furious because his friend had been killed. However, Sakamoto was still alive and completely fine. When Bacho was about to cut down Lu, Sakamoto suddenly returned and struck him from behind. His punch was so powerful that Bacho was sent flying, even causing the floor to collapse. Inside the building, Sunhee demanded that Lu hand over the key, but she refused, determined to protect it even if it cost her life. Sunhee then remarked that her parents had said the same thing before they died. This provoked Lu's emotions, but Sakamoto quickly held her back to prevent her from acting recklessly. There was a reason why Sakamoto wanted to save Lu. Back when he was still an assassin, his wife Aoi had told him they couldn't be together if he didn't change. At that time, Aoi had jumped from a high place to show him that others also had feelings and wanted to protect those they cherished. Because of this, Aoi had made Sakamoto promise to stop killing and live a life helping others. Recalling that promise, Sakamoto ordered Shin to defeat their enemies, without killing them. Sunhee and Bacho finally attacked seriously, even though their opponent was using sharp weapons. Sakamoto was able to keep up with them using only the cooking utensils around him. Realizing that none of their attacks were landing, Sunhee and Bacho decided to launch a combined attack. However, Sakamoto managed to dodge all their slashes without a single scratch. Unfortunately, since he hadn't fought in a long time, his neck muscles cramped slightly. But just as they were about to attack again, Sakamoto countered by striking them with a pan and a wok. Feeling that victory was impossible, Sunhee decided to go after Lu directly. However, Shin quickly realized his plan and stopped him. Sakamoto then ended the fight by slamming them with a refrigerator. With the enemies defeated, Lu began to wonder who Sakamoto really was. Casually, Sakamoto answered that he was just an ordinary store employee. After that, Sakamoto and Shin escorted Lu back to her home. After teaching a lesson to those who targeted her, Lu finally opened the family vault using the key she carried. Inside the vault were various valuable items belonging to the previous clan leader, ranging from golden armor to jewelry. After settling all her affairs, Lu decided to work at Sakamoto's store, since she had no other job. She intended to make authentic steamed buns there, but aside from making buns, she had no other skills. On her first day of work, she was already late. Since Lu couldn't organize the store items properly, Shin tried to advise her, but she refused to listen and instead called him a nagging guy. When Shin complained to Sakamoto, Sakamoto suddenly started acting strangely. He advised Shin to speak politely and told Lu to apologize for being late. Besides that, Sakamoto became more talkative, even though he usually disliked chatting. Not long after, a man who looked exactly like Sakamoto suddenly entered the store. Casually, he sat at the cashier's desk. Without paying attention to his lookalike, the real Sakamoto suddenly launched an attack. This made Sakamoto realize that the imposter was actually his old comrade. Nagumo had arrived, bringing news that Sakamoto now had a bounty of 1 billion yen on his head. At first, Shin and Lu didn't believe it, but they quickly changed their minds when a pizza delivery guy showed up and tried to kill him. The assassin threatened to harm Nagumo, but Sakamoto remained unfazed and casually ate the pizza he had brought. With this, Nagumo had proven his words to be true. He quickly subdued the assassin by locking his neck. Sakamoto then asked who wanted him dead, but Nagumo didn't know either. He had only come to complete a mission he had received. After speaking with Sakamoto, Nagumo bid farewell, taking the defeated assassin with him. Meanwhile, in another location, the people plotting Sakamoto's assassination were gathered. They observed Sakamoto from a distance using a hidden camera placed by the pizza delivery guy. Upon seeing him, they couldn't believe that such a chubby man was worth 1 billion yen. However, their leader warned them not to underestimate Sakamoto. Then, through the camera, Sakamoto sent a message to them. He warned that if they continued to mess with him, he would show them hell. As he pondered this issue with Shin, his wife and child suddenly reminded him that they were planning to go to an amusement park the next day. This made Sakamoto panic, realizing that his family's safety could be in danger. The next day, Sakamoto and his family went to an amusement park. While they were having fun, Shin was determined to protect them so that Sakamoto's family could enjoy their holiday. However, because the park was so crowded, it was difficult to distinguish enemies from regular visitors. Even so, Shin was confident that there was no immediate threat around them since he could read minds within a 30-meter radius. However, this ability annoyed Lu, who felt like his thoughts were constantly being spied on. Not long after, Shin noticed someone approaching them. The person was disguised as a janitor and blended in with the crowd. Just as the janitor was about to attack, Sakamoto swiftly took him down using only a pen. Shin and Lu quickly secured him to avoid drawing attention. But besides this fake janitor, another assassin had also been sent to the amusement park. His name was Tatsu. After observing the situation, Tatsu realized that he could deceive Shin by emptying his mind. This way, Shin wouldn't be able to detect his presence. Later, Sakamoto decided to ride the roller coaster. To better detect any threats, Shin and Lu purposely chose seats at the back. At first, Shin didn't sense any danger, but Lu noticed a silver-haired person sitting ahead of them who looked suspicious. Realizing this, Shin immediately warned Sakamoto that there was an enemy behind him, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. To protect Sakamoto, Shin chose to get off the ride and face the enemy alone. Standing on the roller coaster track, Shin declared that today was Sakamoto's day off. Therefore, he would handle the fight himself.
With that stunt.
Today is Mr. Sakamoto's day off.
Bruh, you're harsh in my vibe.
Can't read his mind. This'll be a tough fight.
Moments later, as the roller coaster rushed by behind him, Tatsu took advantage of the distraction and threw a knife at Shin. Unable to dodge in time, the knife struck Shin, and he soon realized that it was coated with poison. As a result, his movements became sluggish. Despite his weakening body, Shin struggled to get back up. To break his spirit, Tatsu mocked his superior, claiming that Sakamoto had the eyes of a loser and was too weak because he feared death. However, Shin responded that Tatsu knew nothing about Sakamoto. He insisted that Sakamoto wasn't weak. He had a family to protect, and people like that were actually stronger than anyone else. As the poison spread through his body, Shin's vision began to blur. Even though he could barely see, he desperately searched for a way to defeat Tatsu. When he saw the roller coaster about to pass by, he used that moment to drag Tatsu onto a performance stage. Shin had deliberately chosen this location so he could use the audience's reactions to read Tatsu's movements. Realizing Shin's strategy, Sakamoto quickly gave him clearer instructions. Using his ability to read minds, he guided Shin on when to attack and when to dodge. Despite his impaired vision, with Sakamoto's help, Shin successfully defeated Tatsu.
Show's getting intense. It almost looks... Hana, I think Daddy likes the show.
Right. Left. Left. Right. Count. His guard's up. Close in. Body.
No way he cleared the poison that fast. It moves. He's like a completely different person. Son, you're ruining the vibe! His eyes are closed.
It's over.
After Tatsu was taken down, Bole and Abigoro prepared to carry out their mission. Unlike the previous assassins, Bole never underestimated Sakamoto because they were old friends. Meanwhile, Shin was given an antidote by Lu. However, when Lu tried to administer the medicine into his eyes, Shin instinctively tried to run away, even though the treatment wasn't painful. At that moment, Sakamoto questioned Tatsu about who had hired him. Initially, Tatsu refused to talk, but when Lu stabbed him with a poison knife and threatened to destroy the antidote, Tatsu finally gave in. He still valued his life. He revealed that he had been hired by the Denkai group, a shady organization involved in dangerous jobs. However, Tatsu himself was just a freelance worker and had no loyalty to them. In other words, he was from the same assassin association that Shin and Sakamoto had once belonged to. Shortly after, Sakamoto's wife and daughter arrived. They invited him to go eat with them since they were hungry. Before leaving, Hana gave something to Tatsu. Even though she was just a child, she wanted to thank him because his performance during the fight had been really entertaining. During the meal, Shin felt his mind go blank due to the side effects of the antidote. As a result, he was unable to read other people's thoughts today. Lu was very shocked by this because, without his ability to read minds, he considered Shin a failure as a detector. Because of that, he suggested that they should just go home. However, this plan seemed difficult to execute because Aoi had started to suspect that they were hiding something from her. Meanwhile, Bole and Abigoro found Tatsu attempting to escape. Abigoro immediately knocked him down and pinned him to the ground so he couldn't move. Tatsu asked why they had come here, to which Bole replied that they were here to finish their job. Even though Bole and Abigoro often appeared comical, they were actually strong fighters. Rumor had it that they had defeated more than 100 enemies, leading Tatsu to assume that Sakamoto wouldn't survive. On the other hand, Hana asked her father if he didn't enjoy amusement parks. Not wanting his daughter to be sad, Shin and Lu assured her that they were very excited and enjoyed the amusement park. Because of that, they decided to keep playing and trying out different rides. So far, no assassins had appeared, and they thought everything would be fine since the park was so vast. However, as night began to fall, Sakamoto's wife and daughter insisted on visiting a haunted house. The place was terrifying and seemed like the perfect location for an assassination. Sakamoto's wife and daughter thoroughly enjoyed the attraction, while Sakamoto himself couldn't relax, knowing that many assassins were lurking inside. Meanwhile, Bole reminisced about his past with Sakamoto. They first met at a training center and often spent time together, even outside of missions and classes. However, over time, Bole realized that Sakamoto never really considered him a friend. Moreover, Sakamoto was very popular among women, whereas Bole was the complete opposite. Bole had once thought they were similar, but now he saw the truth. At the same time, Sakamoto was quietly making his way through the attraction, eliminating every enemy hiding in the area. On the other side, Lu was visibly scared. To calm himself, he took a traditional medicine from his family, which was believed to bring good luck. However, instead of getting lucky, the medicine made him drunk. In his intoxicated state, Lu recklessly opened a door filled with zombies, causing them to swarm out and separate Sakamoto from his family. As they got separated, Bole seized the opportunity to attack Sakamoto. Upon seeing him, Bole immediately asked if Sakamoto still remembered him. When Sakamoto didn't recognize him, Bole declared that he would make Sakamoto remember. Meanwhile, Shin found Aoi and Hana, but they were unconscious. Before he could react, Abiguro had already found him. Not long after, Lu, still drunk, launched a surprise attack. He boasted that he would now demonstrate his family's ancient combat technique, passed down for thousands of years. Meanwhile, Sakamoto asked Bole where his family was. When Bole refused to answer, Sakamoto became furious and struck him. However, Bole was no easy opponent. Every time Sakamoto attacked, Bole managed to counter and retaliate using bouncing explosive balls. On the other hand, Lu had impressive martial arts skills, but because he was drunk, Abiguro easily subdued him just by shaking his head. To make Lu fight seriously, Abiguro threatened to kill his friends unless he landed an attack within 10 seconds. Instead of fighting back, Lu started crying, feeling powerless to save his friends. As the fight continued, Sakamoto began recalling who his opponent was. Now that he remembered, he decided to take the fight seriously. Although Lu was still drunk, he managed to fight well. However, because he wasn't fully focused, Abiguro had many chances to knock him down. When Lu finally fell, Shin screamed hysterically. His exaggerated reaction made Lu laugh. But once Lu finished his medicine, his combat abilities greatly improved. With newfound agility, he dodged every attack and launched precise counterattacks. This only excited Abiguro further. He wanted a more serious battle and prepared to go all out. Just before he could land a final blow, Lu suddenly regained consciousness. Confused and unable to remember what had happened, he was left in a daze. Impressed by Lu's abilities, Abiguro admitted that his skills were extraordinary and even gave him chills. Rather than continuing the fight, Abiguro chose to make peace. Meanwhile, Sakamoto suddenly reverted to his slim form. With his current physique, he moved much faster and attacked without giving his opponent a chance to dodge. His punches were so powerful that they shattered Boyle's reinforced gloves. When Bole tried to attack using his explosive balls, Sakamoto caught them and threw them right back at him. Sakamoto acknowledged that Bole was strong, but he also admitted that he had once used his own strength to harm others. However, now he had made a decision to use his power to protect the people he cared about. Acknowledging Sakamoto's superiority, Bole admitted defeat and vowed never to disturb Sakamoto or his family again. As they were both enjoying their steamed buns, Shin eagerly approached them. He was amazed to see Sakamoto looking cool again, just like before. After that, they started talking about the bounty that had been placed on Sakamoto's head. Hearing this, Aoi immediately gathered them and demanded an explanation. Since he had been found out, Sakamoto had no choice but to tell the truth. He revealed that he had a bounty on him and that assassins were after him. Aoi was shocked to hear this. Even though Sakamoto didn't want to worry her, Aoi firmly stated that there should be no secrets in their family. After receiving advice from his wife, Sakamoto decided to track down the person who placed the bounty and have it removed. The next day, in order to find Denkai's headquarters, Sakamoto had a lead. He went to an information broker disguised as a DVD rental shop. It didn't take long for them to get a documentary film about Denkai, but the information wasn't cheap. Sakamoto had to pay a hefty price for it. Fortunately, he still had savings from his bachelor days. Before he left, the seller asked Sakamoto if he was planning to return to the underworld. He warned Sakamoto to be careful, as there was a chance that his old associates were involved in this matter. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Nagumo was having dinner with his colleagues. When asked if he had met Sakamoto, Nagumo pretended not to know, which annoyed the person questioning him. A man named Shiba said that being emotional like this wasn't their style. However, when he found out that his meal wasn't what he ordered, he became even angrier and punished the chef. Shortly after, Iria from the Assassin Association arrived to meet them, holding a photo. She explained that recently, someone had been massacring members of the Assassin Association. Because of this, she requested their help in dealing with the situation. After obtaining the information, Sakamoto and his two companions headed straight to Denkai's headquarters. Dressed entirely in black, they began their infiltration mission while avoiding fights. When they encountered guards, Shin and Sakamoto quickly took them down. However, after incapacitating several people, they got bored and removed their disguises. When Lu asked where the boss's office was, Shin explained that it was on the top floor. To reach it, they had to enter through a window, just as the documentary had indicated. Feeling like a spy, Lu thoroughly enjoyed the infiltration. However, just as they were about to reach the boss's office, Shin sensed something strange. It was too quiet, and he couldn't hear any enemies at all. It turned out that all of Denkai's top executives, including their boss, had already been slaughtered by someone. At that moment, Nagumo appeared and admitted that he was the one who had killed them. To cover his tracks, Nagumo said he had no choice but to eliminate Sakamoto and his companions as well. He quickly ran behind Shin and stabbed him in the neck with a knife. However, it was just a toy knife. Nagumo was only joking and had coincidentally been there for a different reason. In reality, he was investigating the culprit behind the murders of 100 members of the Assassin Association.